Hello, my name is Erica Hirsch, and this is my original contribution for the American College of Education capstone project. This presentation is based on the integration of the Amplify Science Program for my current school that I'm working at, Sodus Middle School, primarily focusing on 6th through 8th graders. So, a brief introduction. Education in the digital age requires continuous learning and adaptation. As we continue to move into more technologies, becoming more technology dependent, students need to be able to understand how to use technologies and also use technologies that they might not be familiar with. So being comfortable using different platforms and basically figuring out how to use them as new technologies develop. What we really liked about Amplify Science is that it engages learners with the real-world scientific problems. So students are solving problems that actual scientists work with and deal with on a professional level. For example, one of the lessons or one of the units is an internship where students are playing the role of scientists creating an early warning system for tsunamis for the island of Sri Lanka. So they are learning about plate tectonics, then they're applying what they learned to create these early warning systems and researching and understanding the different types of technologies that go into it. And again, integrating this new technology really makes sure that the students are staying current with scientific practices. Using these types of models is definitely something that scientists use in the lab, creating these computer models and then using them to help them understand problems and solve those problems and test ideas. So why did our school decide to go with Amplify? One of the main reasons was that some of these processes, especially for grades 6 through 8, are very challenging for students to understand. Either they're too small or they happen too slowly, and it can be difficult for middle school students to grasp those processes. So again, things like plate tectonics or the carbon cycle, it's something that is a little bit too abstract to see the small scale of those processes happening. What really drew us to Amplify as well is that approximately 30% of our school's population is Spanish speaking or of a Spanish heritage. So Amplify does have the ability to translate both the digital web pages and their workbooks as well. So pretty much everything that is provided in English comes in Spanish as well. And as we move forward, Sodus Middle School is in the state of New York. New York is currently transitioning to online testing, and Amplify does provide that as well. So getting students comfortable with doing state assessments online, using the computer to complete those assessments and the different types of questions and abilities that they have on the computer, like matching or multiple choice, drawing, things like that. And then finally, we chose Amplify because it really provided curriculum clarity for us. We did not really have a strong curriculum map about what each grade level should be learning. There was some turnover with teachers and new teachers coming in. We just wanted to make sure that it was clear to them what they should be teaching, and Amplify was a great tool that they could use to implement these topics. as a new teacher, especially one that's fresh out of school that has no teaching experience, Amplify really makes it simple. It gives great ideas or examples of hands-on activities, manipulatives. Again, it has simulations on the computer that are extremely helpful. So as a new teacher starting fresh out of school, it was a great tool that could help a teacher become a master. So what were our goals? Our goals were to help students understand, again, these complex processes using the simulations provided by Amplify. There are a couple of other programs out there that I've seen that do provide simulations, such as Explore Learning, but Amplify had kind of the whole package where it was questions and projects based on the simulation. What's also nice is that Amplify does have lessons where you can differentiate the instruction. So you get the assessment data back, typically after a mid-unit assessment, or there's also a pre-unit assessment. And you can really tell what the students know, what background knowledge they have coming into the unit. You can also see how they're progressing through the unit, and then see what standards you need to go back and cover again at the end of a unit. You can also differentiate different activities with the students. So some students might be given a higher level reading or a higher level comprehension assignment, whereas students that are still struggling with the topic might be given something that's kind of been tiered down to them. And then again, it's really engaging for the students. I treat my classroom as they're entering a scientific room. They are playing the roles of scientists. They are grouped together. They're collaborating with each other as scientists using scientific language. And it really gets them thinking. They're really problem solving and building off of each other's ideas. They're basically playing the role of a real scientist. They're reading information. They're gathering evidence. They're sorting evidence. They are coming up with reasons for why their evidence supports a specific claim. So it's really getting them to think like a scientist and become a problem solver. So what were some of the risks that could come along with introducing this new program? Because again, in the past, we didn't really have a clear curriculum. We had the standards, but it wasn't necessarily clear which teachers would be covering which standards. And then by the time the students got to 8th grade, it kind of ended up being the 8th grade teacher's job to review all the standards and make sure that they were ready for the 8th grade state test. And that could be extremely stressful. So there was a couple of risks just introducing this brand new technology and this brand new program. First, there was a financial risk. It is a program that you have to buy into. There are kits that you could purchase that come prepared with all of the hands-on materials. So example, if we're talking about soft solid versus hard solid, you could purchase the kit. It comes with the vocab words. It comes with the products like the silly putty and little cubes of squares to represent your different solids. It comes with your key concepts. Also, you have the ability to purchase the workbooks. And again, at the bare minimum, you're purchasing the license for the technology itself, for the program that's going to be used on the Chromebooks. There's also an instructional risk with the new technology. If it's not working or if students are not bringing their Chromebooks, we're running into what can we do to supplement it. And then finally, cultural risks. We want to make sure that this technology and the certain scenarios are not offending anyone or any cultures. For the teachers, there is a risk that the teachers might not like it or they need to adjust to a new routine. What's nice about Amplify is that it is very routine. So every day students start with a warm-up. There's some sort of, there are several activities, and then it closes with some sort of closing activity. So some teachers don't like to be told how to how to teach. So we kind of used Amplify as kind of like a springboard, that if you're comfortable with the content, you feel that you know how to do it, then you don't need to use the Amplify. We're kind of using it as new teachers. We highly recommend using it, but we decided that we didn't necessarily need 100% teacher buy-in. But what we have noticed is that even veteran teachers who have been doing the curriculum for long periods of time didn't mind the idea of using ideas from Amplify. So even if they weren't using it with fidelity every single day, they were at least using the simulations, using some of the anchoring phenomena, and some of the activities from the program. But overall, right now, we have 3 middle school teachers. We're at a very small school, so 1 teacher for 6th grade, 1 teacher for 7th grade, 1 teacher for 8th grade, and all 3 of us are using Amplify with fidelity, and we're seeing as the students move through the grade levels, they require less time of learning the steps of what to expect when they're in the science classroom. They come into 7th grade expecting to work with teams. They come in expecting to work with virtual simulations. They know they're going to be provided some kind of anchoring phenomena that they're going to have to solve a problem for. So we've seen success in that manner. The risk, again, in integrating this technology, the value that comes out of it, it kind of outweighs it, because again, we're not expecting all of our students to go into their high school career with the idea that they're going to leave being a scientist. We are really trying to prepare our students for being able to solve problems and being comfortable with not necessarily knowing the answer right away and testing ideas, and basically preparing them to enter the real world and think for themselves. Embracing ambiguities. Again, some of the things that teachers and administration were concerned about were the access to the device. So the program is a virtual program, so you need to have some sort of connection to internet, and the students need some sort of digital device. Luckily, our school is completely Chromebook, so every individual student has their own Chromebook that they are bringing to classroom. What is nice about Amplify is that you can back up pretty much everything. You can download it into your drive and refer back to those resources. So if a particular, let's say if there's a power outage, you have the ability to still use the program. Obviously, you won't be able to log into the simulations for that particular portion, but typically there is some sort of backup and extra activities that are available. A lot of teachers, when we were first introducing the program, were a little bit concerned about how it works, what it does. Even when we were first shown one of the simulations, we were a little bit kind of apprehensive about it. It looked like it was a lot. We didn't think our students would be able to get it. So we did actually have Amplify come in and do some training with us. They spent time going through what the purpose of it is, how to use some of the simulations, what we can expect from the students. And that really settled our nerves about that. And another thing was, how hands-on is this? Because again, science is all about experimenting and trying, testing new ideas. And Amplify does a great job of balancing both. We have both the digital platform, and there are hands-on activities that are available as well. So students in a typical lesson will be working both on the Chromebook and working with some sort of manipulative, whether it's again using the silly putty and the cube and comparing a soft solid to a hard solid. Sometimes they're manipulating little cards to represent, and little like bingo chips to represent the movement of carbon through the carbon cycle. And again, then we have that digital aspect as well. So they're seeing simulations to clarify difficult ideas, and then they're actively engaging in the curriculum itself with the hands-on portion. So we have an example in action. Again, this is from the 7th grade curriculum. This is the last unit where students are basically learning about the carbon cycle. They're learning about matter and energy in ecosystems and how energy gets transferred through ecosystems. In this particular instance, the anchoring phenomenon is a fictional failed biodome. And they must determine what caused the ecosystem to crash in this fictional biodome, similar to the biodome project that was back in the early 90s. So students are introduced to the problem, and throughout the unit they are using the simulation. Again, they're using hands-on manipulatives. And you could see in the image, the simulation basically looks very complex, but students using it every day get comfortable using it and start understanding what the different pieces of it mean. And they're actually able to control the amount of carbon in each trophic level. They're able to bury carbon so they can see how that affects ecosystems. They can trap carbon in the atmosphere to see how that affects it. And it's really interesting because you can really play around with the simulations quite a bit and get a lot of cause and effect. So students, they love engaging with this. They like seeing, oh, well, what happens if I get rid of all of the producers? Or what happens if I get rid of all the decomposers? How does that impact the rest of the system? And they can adjust the time so it can speed up, so they're not sitting there just staring at it for long periods of time. So they can really change almost every aspect of the simulation, which makes it really cool. I also like that it does have the nice visualizations as well, so it's very clear to the students what they're looking at. And again, a major part of this program is discussing it with their team of scientists. So building ideas off of each other. Sometimes certain students would be assigned to decrease all the producers while their shoulder partner is decreasing all the decomposers. Then after they run the simulation, they can then discuss it with their partner, show the different results, and share ideas as to why they think certain things happened. So what is the teacher benefit to this? For us, we really liked that it was really easy to roll out. We went full in. We purchased the kits for each grade level, 6 through 8. For each unit, we also purchased the workbooks, so students had a physical object that they were writing in. You do have the option to go completely virtual and not have any paper workbooks, but coming back from COVID, we really wanted to give the students some hands-on and get them back into writing and drawing diagrams. We also liked that it was NGSS aligned. Being in the state of New York, it's also NISLIS aligned. There was only 2 standards that Amplify didn't hit with the new NISLIS standards. However, those are now hit in the new New York State middle school labs. So those standards, we made sure that every single standard was hit. So our students are prepared for 8th grade and finishing up 8th grade. What you're looking at right here is the teacher dashboard. So if students are testing using the computer, it's bringing that information or uploading it directly to the teacher dashboard. It tracks the data. It also organizes students by developing confident and then above average. So we're able to group our students based on their knowledge of a specific topic. And we can also, that also helps with seating them with other students that might be struggling, so that they're helping each other out and building off of each other. And it also supports teachers in lifelong learning and growth, because we're constantly, they're constantly updating it as well. Throughout the year, Amplify will provide supplement lessons. If something new is going on in the world, they'll provide mini lessons that you can incorporate into certain grade levels. For Earth Day, they usually provide some sort of lesson that you could do. Sometimes they even provide weekly lessons. So they are constantly adapting with the times as well. It's not like you just buy this program and then it's stagnant for years on end. So it's constantly shifting and changing as well. Some of the benefits we've seen for our students is that it's interactive. My students were extremely excited to look at the surface of Mars at the launch unit, which is the geology on Mars. They loved that they can interact with essentially Google Maps, and Amplify provides like guiding questions and guiding lessons for that. Students like that they can interact with the simulations. They like the control that they have of the simulations, and that they can try different things with them. And if something doesn't go right, it's always just a reset. We also like that it was very inquiry driven, looking at the new standards that New York is using. They want students to be able to solve problems. Also, with the new curriculum for high school science, a lot more of it is based on inquiry-driven questions. So preparing those students for high school using inquiry-driven learning basically helps them succeed in the long run. Again, I mentioned before, it benefits our multilingual support. So students that don't speak any English are still able to use the program and learn science at the same time while developing their linguistic skills. And again, it develops critical thinking and real-world application. Our students, when we first introduced the program, it was surprising seeing our students struggle to not know the answer right away. So for example, right now we're in our launch program, which is geology on Mars. And students are trying to determine what formed this channel on Mars. Was it liquid water or liquid lava, to try to determine if Mars could have at one point have been habitable. And it was interesting when we first rolled out the program, because students on the first day were like, well, what's the answer? Um, so kind of getting them comfortable with not necessarily knowing the answer right away. So really kind of taking a step back from that uh, ability with the cell phones and access to the internet 24/7, that you're not necessarily going to get an answer right away, and that in science especially, you need to work to find the correct answer. And sometimes the correct answer, there isn't necessarily a correct answer. So learning how to gather evidence and then determine what evidence is strong, what evidence is weak, um, and use that to support claims. And again, my students are arguing with each other scientifically. They are sharing, supporting their claims with evidence that they've gathered, and then explaining it with reasoning. So they're following the 3 steps of claim, evidence, and reasoning. So our implementation plan, we did have existing resources. Like I said, we do all have Chromebooks. We had access to the internet, and we have a school-based Launchpad, which has all of our digital programs. The new resources that we had to purchase was the subscription itself, which baseline is approximately $25 per student. So that's the subscription to the virtual aspect of it. The prices tend to go up from there. If you want to purchase the kits with the physical objects, that's an additional fee. If you want to purchase the workbooks, those are available as well. But your baseline is approximately $25 a student. Additionally, we did have training during the first summer to get us comfortable with using the program itself. After that, though, pretty much teachers that had been trained were able to then collaborate over the summer with any new teachers and help them get set up with the program. And then as far as maintenance goes, it's just the annual renewal. Some of the kits do have perishable items. So in one of the units, when students are creating a sedimentary rock, they're crushing up Jolly Ranchers and then pressing them together to show how pressure and time can create a sedimentary rock. So things like that need to be purchased. But the initial kit itself comes with all of that. But after those kind of perishable items are out, you just need to replace those and just check the kits yearly if you do end up using the kits. So our evaluation plan, we are currently in year 3 of using the Amplify program. So this will be the first year where we've had eighth graders taking the New York State 8th grade science exam that have had Amplify for all 3 years. So this year is going to kind of be our determining factor of how well this program is working. But based on last year's data, looking at the gap analysis, we saw that our students that took the 8th grade science exam, the parts where they were below the gap were standards that were now being hit with Amplify in 6th grade. So those students that only had Amplify in 7th and 8th grade were above the gap for the standards that they hit during those 2 years. So that tells me that Amplify hit those standards, and then those students exceeded those standards. The only standards that they were below the gap were the standards that they did not get because Amplify was not rolled out yet for them in 6th grade. So it was really interesting to look at those standards and look at the gap analysis and see that it is working. So again, this year is going to be our kind of big evaluation year because our students will have had it for 3 years in a row. And we'll really be able to see if those standards were hit and how well they performed compared to the rest of the students. We're constantly evaluating them through the assessment data as well. Again, students can test either online or on paper, and then Amplify even shows you how to analyze the results to show that a student is either still struggling with a standard, or if they are solid or they completely understand a standard. So that assessment data is extremely useful in reteaching and spiraling back. Our vision for the future is to expand across the grade levels and subjects. Currently, we did roll out Amplify Science first. We are currently rolling out Amplify ELA as well, as we start to see success with this program with our students. So using this with fidelity with the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. We also were able to get our students to start having science every day in the 6th grade. In the past, they were only seeing science every other day. And now with this expansion project and movement towards working with these standards, our administration team decided that in the 6th grade level, they need to be seeing science every day, and that this particular program is supporting not only science, but it's also supporting ELA and math. It's teaching our students, or helping our students, how to understand new material, how to find information in a text. We also have the potential to integrate this with STEM projects or cross-curricular projects. So if we're doing the early warning system for Sri Lanka, that can be incorporated into social studies. Any readings that we do can be incorporated into ELA. Learning how to annotate a text. That's something that we believe every student should be able to do. And this program helps support that. And for the future, this is going to be kind of a key year with reflection and adapting the program if it needs some tweaking. But again, based on our data from last year, we feel that our students are exceeding the knowledge gap for the standards that were taught to them. So it will be nice to see our data come in this year for our 8th graders that have been with Amplify for all 3 years, and see how the data changes with that. So in conclusion, again, our school, Sodus Central High School, junior senior high school in Sodus, New York, we decided to go with Amplify because it supports equity, engagement, and real-world science. My students often ask me, is this real? And yes, essentially what they are doing, the anchoring phenomenon that we're basing this off of, is actual science that scientists have done or are currently doing in the field. So again, like the example with the biodome collapse, students didn't believe me that that was a real experiment that happened back in the 90s. So they really kind of feel like they're a part of something. They feel like they are, that them solving these problems does have meaning, which is important because that's what we're aiming for. We want them to feel that they're learning something with an end goal. Again, teachers gain the tools for data-driven decision making. So we are gathering the data. We can use that data to spiral if we need to. We can use that data to determine how our students are hitting each standard, if they're being successful. And again, we're trying to build these skills for the long run. Being able to problem solve and not just Google an answer and go with the first thing that comes up. Being able to determine if information is evidence-based, to solve problems. So we're teaching them skills that they'll use in high school, college if they do decide to go to college, and just in the real world, and not just taking everything that they see as truth, to really kind of question the world around them. And that's really the main purpose of science, is to question everything. And this program really has helped us with that goal. These are some of the references that I've used to help support my presentation. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to comment or like my video. Thank you.